My wife secretly took our house for herself, so I turned the tables and left her with nothing. I always believed that trust was the foundation of a strong marriage. If you don't have trust, you don't have anything. At least, that's what I thought. Until I found out my wife had secretly put our house in her name behind my back. I'm 35M, and my soon to be ex wife, Rachel, 33F, and I had been married for 6 years. We weren't perfect, but I always thought we had a solid relationship. We both had decent jobs, split expenses fairly, and had what I believed was a good financial understanding. But apparently, Rachel had other ideas. See, when we first bought our house 3 years ago, we both agreed to split everything 50/50. I had more savings, so I put up the down payment, and she agreed to handle more of the smaller monthly expenses until we evened out. Everything was supposed to be fair. But as I would later find out, Rachel had a very different definition of fair. The first sign that something was off happened when I casually mentioned refinancing our mortgage to get a better rate. We had been making solid payments, our credit was good, and I figured we could save a few $100 a month. But when I brought it up to Rachel, she froze. I still remember the way she hesitated before forcing a smile. Oh, I don't think that's necessary. We're already locked in at a decent rate. I frowned. Yeah, but I ran some numbers. If we refinance, we could save a decent chunk over time. She waved a hand dismissively. It's a hassle, plus you know how banks are. I don't want to deal with all the paperwork again. That was weird. Rachel was normally obsessed with saving money. She was the type to hunt for the best deals, compare interest rates, and go through every single line of a receipt to make sure she wasn't overcharged. And now she suddenly didn't want to save thousands over the long run? Something didn't add up. I didn't press the issue at first, but the more I thought about it, the more that weird interaction bugged me. So one day, while Rachel was out with friends, I decided to log into our mortgage account just to check the details myself. But when I tried to access it, I was locked out. A knot formed in my stomach. That didn't make sense. I had used the account before. There was no reason for me to suddenly not have access. So I called the mortgage company. After a bit of back and forth verifying my identity, I finally got a rep on the phone. I'd like to check some details on my mortgage account, I said. There was a pause. Then, the rep said something that made my heart stop. I'm sorry, sir, but you're not listed as an account holder. I blinked. What? That doesn't make sense. I'm one of the owners of the house. Another pause. Then, in a cautious tone, she said, according to our records, the mortgage is solely under Rachel's name. My stomach dropped. I don't even remember the rest of that phone call. I hung up and just sat there, staring at the wall, trying to process what I had just heard. How was that possible? My name was on the original paperwork. I was the one who put up the down payment. This was my house, too. So how the hell was I suddenly not on the mortgage? I waited until Rachel got home that evening. I didn't want to go in guns blazing. Not yet. I needed to see if she'd lie to my face first. So, I played dumb. Hey, I said casually as she set down her bag. I tried logging into the mortgage account today and couldn't get in. Do you remember if we changed the login? Her face did that thing, that split-second flicker of panic before she covered it up. Oh, yeah, I think they changed the system. I had to reset my password a while ago. I nodded slowly. Weird. So can you log in and check for me? She hesitated. Why? Bingo. I folded my arms. Because I called the mortgage company, Rachel, and they told me I'm not on the account anymore. Her face went white. For a few seconds, she just stared at me, like she was debating whether to keep lying or come clean. Then finally, she let out a shaky breath. Okay, I can explain. I clenched my jaw. Yeah, you'd better. She started rambling, talking way too fast. Look, it's not a big deal. When we refinanced last year, the bank said it would be easier to put it under one name. You travel a lot for work, and I handle the bills, so I figured it just made sense. I stared at her. Rachel, that doesn't just happen. You had to actively remove me from the mortgage. She swallowed hard. Well, yeah, but it wasn't personal. I let out a bitter laugh. Not personal? Rachel, you stole our house from me. How is that not personal? She crossed her arms, her voice turning defensive. You're overreacting. It's still our house. Nothing's changed. I shook my head, feeling pure rage bubbling up. Then why didn't you tell me? If it was no big deal, why did I have to find out by accident? Silence. She didn't have an answer for that, because the truth was very simple. Rachel had taken full ownership of our house behind my back, and now? I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. I wasn't about to start yelling like some unhinged maniac. No, I needed to be smart, so I looked her dead in the eyes and said, "You know what? You're right. Nothing's changed. It's still our house." Her shoulders relaxed. "Exactly. But you know what would really make me feel better?" I cut in smoothly. "Let's just go ahead and add my name back on the mortgage." Rachel's whole body stiffened. And in that moment, I knew she had no intention of ever putting my name back on that house, which meant I was about to turn the tables on her. Rachel's whole body stiffened when I suggested adding my name back onto the mortgage. She tried to keep a neutral expression, but I could see the panic in her eyes. That was all the confirmation I needed. She had done this on purpose. She wasn't planning on putting me back on the house. Ever. I kept my face calm, waiting for her response. She opened her mouth, then shut it again. Finally, she forced a smile. "I mean, it's a lot of paperwork, and I don't see why we need to do that when everything is already set up this way." I stared at her. "Rachel, we agreed to own this house together. That was the deal. I put up the down payment, we split expenses, and this was supposed to be ours. So why am I suddenly not on the mortgage?" She let out a nervous laugh. "Babe, you're making this a bigger deal than it is. It's just easier this way." "Easier for who?" I shot back, "because it sure as hell isn't easier for me." She sighed, rubbing her temples like I was the problem. "Look, I handle all the bills, okay? I make sure everything is paid on time. I take care of the paperwork and—" "You take care of the paperwork," I repeated slowly. "Right. And somewhere in that paperwork, you decided to remove my name from our house." She went silent again. That's when I knew she had been planning this. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Rachel, I need you to be honest with me. Did you do this because you're planning something like, I don't know, a divorce?" Her eyes widened and she immediately got defensive. "What? No! Why would you even say that?" I folded my arms. "Because the only reason you'd do something like this behind my back is if you wanted to screw me over later." Rachel shook her head furiously. "That's insane. I love you. This house is ours. I just figured it made sense for it to be in my name since I handle everything. That's all." Lies. Every word out of her mouth was a lie. I knew what was happening now. Rachel had positioned herself perfectly. On paper, this house was hers. If we got divorced, I'd have zero legal claim to it, even though I had paid the down payment. She was setting herself up to kick me out with nothing. I looked at her, my jaw clenched so hard it hurt. But I didn't yell. I didn't fight. No, I was going to play this smart. If Rachel wanted to play dirty, she had no idea what was coming next. That night, I started planning. Rachel had played her move, and now it was time for mine. Step 1. Gather evidence. First, I dug through my financial records. I had the original paperwork from when we bought the house showing that I had put down the entire down payment. Even if the mortgage was now in her name, I had proof that I had invested my own money into this property. Then, I checked our joint bank statements. Over the years, I had been transferring money into our shared account for mortgage payments, money that Rachel had used to pay the bills, meaning I had a clear paper trail proving that I had been contributing, even though my name was no longer on the mortgage. Step 2, talk to a lawyer. I booked a consultation with a divorce attorney, not because I was sure I wanted a divorce, but because I needed to understand my rights. When I explained the situation, my lawyer immediately raised an eyebrow. "So, she removed your name from the mortgage without telling you?" I nodded. "She's preparing for something," he said bluntly. "There's no reason for a spouse to do that unless they're planning to take the house in a divorce." I clenched my fists. "That's what I thought. What are my options?" He leaned back in his chair, thinking. "Well, since you put down the down payment and have proof of payments, you have a strong case to argue for financial interest in the property. But here's the thing. If she legally owns the house, she can still try to force you out if she wants." "So what do I do?" he smirked. "You turn the tables on her." Rachel thought she had won. She thought she had me trapped. But she made one critical mistake. She assumed I wouldn't fight back. Step 1, lock down my money. That night, I moved every single dollar out of our joint account and into my personal one. If she was planning on screwing me over, she wasn't going to touch a dime of my hard-earned money. Step 2, find out what else she was hiding. I started keeping a close eye on her behavior. Was she meeting with a lawyer? Was she talking to anyone suspiciously? Was she suddenly spending more money than usual? Sure enough, within a week, I noticed something. Rachel had started going out more often. At first, I thought maybe she was just hanging out with friends, but then I saw something that made my blood run cold. One night, when she left for one of her girls' nights, I checked our home security cameras, and guess what? She didn't go to meet her friends. She met up with another guy. There it was, the final nail in the coffin. Rachel wasn't just trying to take our house. She was cheating on me too. And suddenly, everything made perfect sense. The secrecy, the lies, the fact that she had taken the house for herself. She had been planning this for months, and now I wasn't just going to fight back. I was going to destroy her. I took screenshots from the security footage. Then I started digging deeper, checking her texts, looking at her social media activity, even scrolling through our shared emails. And what I found confirmed everything. Rachel had been seeing this guy for nearly a year. Not only that, but she had been talking to a divorce lawyer behind my back, and the cherry on top, she had been telling people that I was controlling and emotionally distant, setting up a fake narrative so that when she finally pulled the trigger on the divorce, she'd come out looking like the victim. I sat there, staring at the evidence in front of me, my heart pounding. This woman had been plotting to take everything from me. My home, my money, my dignity. Well, guess what? She was about to lose it all. Rachel thought she had played the perfect game. She thought she had quietly removed my name from the mortgage, set up a narrative where I was some distant, controlling husband, and even lined up another guy to replace me when she was ready to make her move. She had spent months manipulating me, planning her escape, and making sure that when the dust settled, she'd walk away with everything: the house, the money, and a fresh start while leaving me with nothing. But what she didn't know, I already knew everything. And now, it was my turn to play. I spent the next week putting my plan into motion. Step one, protect myself legally. I met with my lawyer again, showed him the security footage of Rachel meeting up with the other guy, and handed over the emails and texts I had found, proving she had been planning to divorce me for months. Damn, my lawyer muttered, shaking his head. She really thought she was going to pull this off, huh? I smirked. Not anymore. Since Rachel had been setting herself up to take the house, we decided to file a financial claim before she could serve me with divorce papers. This meant that even though the mortgage was in her name, the courts would recognize my financial contributions, especially since I had proof I paid the down payment and had been contributing to mortgage payments for years. But that was just the beginning. Step two, freeze her out financially. I had already moved every single dollar out of our joint account, but now I took it a step further. I cut off her access to any credit cards that were in my name, and I canceled every automatic payment she had been relying on. Rachel was used to me handling everything: the bills, the expenses, the budgeting. So when she suddenly had to pay for everything on her own, she was not prepared. It didn't take long for her to notice. One afternoon, I was sitting in my home office when she stormed in, holding her phone up like it was a smoking gun. "Why is the electricity bill unpaid?" she snapped. I barely looked up. "Not my problem," I said, clicking through emails. She scoffed. "Excuse me? Of course it's your problem. We live here together." I finally looked at her, my expression blank. "Oh, I thought this was your house." Her face twitched. "What's that supposed to mean?" I leaned back in my chair. "You put the house in your name without telling me. You control the mortgage. You're the sole owner according to the bank." I shrugged. "So why would I pay for a house that I don't even own?" She opened her mouth, then shut it again. I could see the gears turning in her head, realizing that for the first time she wasn't in control. Over the next few days, I watched as Rachel started panicking. With me cutting off financial support, she had to rely entirely on her own income, which wasn't enough to cover everything. Then came the second blow. I had my lawyer file a formal request for financial restitution, meaning that Rachel was now facing a legal battle over the house she thought she had stolen. When she got served with the paperwork, she lost it. "You're suing me?" she screeched, waving the documents in my face. I calmly sipped my coffee. "I'm just claiming what's rightfully mine. You know, the house I paid for?" She started pacing, running a hand through her hair. "This is ridiculous. You're my husband. Why are you doing this?" I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the husband you were secretly planning to divorce? The one you were lying to while meeting up with another guy behind his back?" Her face went pale. "How did you—" I leaned forward, my voice low and deadly calm. "Rachel, I know everything." Her mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. It's not what you think." I pulled out my phone, opened the security footage, and hit play. On the screen, clear as day, was Rachel sneaking off to meet her side guy. She looked like she was about to faint. I don't know what's worse, I mused. That you tried to steal my house, or that you weren't even smart about hiding your affair. Her eyes were wild now, darting around like she was trying to figure out an escape. I was going to tell you, I laughed. Oh, sure, right after you finalized your little plan to kick me out and take everything, right? She stammered. It wasn't like that. I stood up, towering over her. Rachel, you lost. You tried to screw me over, and now you're the one who's screwed. Rachel spent the next few weeks in full meltdown mode. The legal battle over the house was dragging her through hell. Since I had proof of my financial contributions, her lawyer couldn't argue that it was fully hers. Not only that, but her affair was now common knowledge. Turns out her side guy had zero interest in being her long-term backup plan. The second things got complicated, he ghosted her. Now, she was stuck in a house she couldn't afford, fighting a losing legal battle and drowning in stress. And me? I was preparing my final move. One night, after another tense legal meeting, Rachel sat on the couch, looking completely defeated. We don't have to do this, she murmured. We can just go back to how things were. I looked at her like she had lost her damn mind. Rachel, you tried to screw me over. You lied to me. You betrayed me. And now that you're finally dealing with consequences, you want to pretend none of it happened? Tears welled up in her eyes. I just don't want to lose everything. I let out a slow, cold laugh. Ah, well, Rachel, you should have thought about that before you got greedy. Then I pulled out one last document, a divorce agreement. Her breath hitched. No, you don't mean that. I placed it on the table. I'm done, Rachel. Sign the papers. She wiped her eyes. And if I don't? I smirked. Then I'll drag you through court until you have nothing left. She signed. And just like that, she lost everything. The moment Rachel signed those divorce papers, I felt a wave of relief wash over me. This was it. The end of the nightmare she had tried to drag me through. She had spent months plotting behind my back, trying to set herself up to walk away with everything: the house, the money, and a fresh start. She thought she had outmaneuvered me, that I'd roll over and let her screw me over, but instead, she lost everything, and I made damn sure she felt it. Once the divorce was official, the financial wreckage hit Rachel like a freight train. Since I had provided the down payment and had documented proof that I had contributed to mortgage payments for years, my lawyer ripped her case apart in court. Rachel had been so confident that putting the house in her name would let her keep it, but what she didn't realize? That didn't erase my financial contributions. And since I had ironclad records, the judge ruled in my favor. I was entitled to half of the home's value. Rachel had two options. One, sell the house and split the proceeds with me. Two, buy me out, meaning she'd have to cough up thousands of dollars to keep the house. The problem? She couldn't afford either. With her finances in shambles thanks to me cutting her off, she didn't have enough money to buy me out, and since she had racked up debt after I stopped paying the bills, getting approved for a loan, not happening, which meant the house had to be sold. Rachel begged me to reconsider. We don't have to do this, she whined. Can't we figure something out? I looked at her, completely unimpressed. Like what? Let you keep the house you tried to steal from me? She had the nerve to look offended. I didn't steal it, I just thought it made sense for it to be in my name. I scoffed. You planned to take everything, and now that it's backfiring, you want sympathy? She didn't have an answer for that. Instead, she started crying, telling me how hard this was for her, how she was losing everything. I just stared at her. Because this was exactly what she deserved. She had tried to ruin my life. She had cheated, lied, and plotted behind my back, and now she was the one scrambling. I walked away without another word. The house went on the market, and within a couple of months, it was sold. Rachel got half of the money, but since she had racked up debt and had nowhere to live, she had to use most of it to cover her own mess. Meanwhile, I walked away with my share of the profits, a clean slate, and zero financial baggage. But the best part? Rachel's new life was a complete disaster. Her side guy dumped her the second things got complicated. Turns out he wasn't interested in being with a broke homeless woman who just got destroyed in a divorce. Her friends? Most of them had distanced themselves after learning what she had done. Apparently, trying to secretly take your husband's house doesn't make you a very likable person. And her job? Well, let's just say the legal battle had taken its toll. She had been so distracted fighting to keep the house that she had been slacking at work. And guess what? She got fired. With no house, no job, and no one to bail her out, Rachel had officially hit rock bottom. Meanwhile, I was thriving. With my share of the house money, I bought a new place, a home that was 100% mine. No shared ownership, no hidden betrayals, just a fresh start. And as for my personal life, well, let's just say Rachel's replacement plan didn't work out, but mine did. A few months after the divorce, I reconnected with an old friend, someone who had always been in my life, but never more than that. Turns out, she had always seen through Rachel's bullshit and had kept her distance because she didn't want to get involved in the drama. Without Rachel around, we started hanging out more, and for the first time in years, I felt genuinely happy. There were no lies, no manipulations, no schemes, just two people enjoying each other's company, having fun, and seeing where things went. And let me tell you, that feeling was priceless. Months passed, and just when I thought Rachel had finally disappeared for good, she tried one last time to drag me back in. One evening, out of nowhere, I got a long ass email from her. It was a mix of self pity, gaslighting, and desperate nostalgia. She rambled about how she had been going through a tough time and that she missed me, how she wished things had gone differently, how she still thought about me and the good times we had. And then came the best part. I know we made mistakes, but maybe we could get coffee and talk. I'd love to see you again. I actually laughed out loud. Rachel hadn't changed. She was just miserable and looking for a way back in. So I responded with exactly one sentence. I think you need to focus on fixing your own life before trying to crawl back into mine. Then I blocked her email, and just like that, she was gone. If there's one thing I learned from this whole experience, it's this: people will show you who they really are if you're willing to pay attention. Rachel had always been a little selfish, a little controlling, a little manipulative, but I ignored the red flags because I wanted to believe we were building a life together. But the truth? She was never in this for us. She was in it for herself. She thought she could outsmart me, take what she wanted, and walk away without consequences. But instead, she ended up losing everything. And me? I walked away with my house, my money, my peace, and a life free of her bull, and I wouldn't have it any other way.